Hello and welcome to the Pocket Dojo podcast, the show where we talk about making the world a better place by making better things. I'm Paul Crick.
And I'm Asha Singh.
Today, it's Asha's turn to lead the conversation, so let's dive in.
So today I'm talking with Riccardo Sai, who is a wonderful filmmaker, director and producer whom I met through the relatively new Undaunted community, who are definitely a community who are committed to making the world a better place by making better things. Welcome, Ricardo. It's wonderful to have you here. Thank you for joining us today.
Ciao, Asha. Hello, everybody. Great to be here.
Fantastic. So, Ricardo, we don't know each other very well. We just met in person for the first time last week, but I sense you have many stories to tell and many talents also to share with people in the short time we have available today. So just to begin our conversation, would you like to share a little bit about yourself and the kind of work that you do?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for having me here. It's a great honor to be here and share my stories. So yeah, it's my name is Riccardo Sai. I grew up in Italy and moved to the UK, in London in particular, about 20 years ago. Actually, more than 20 years ago. Italian, born and bred there, and I've been working in the creative industry pretty much, well, all my life really, and always felt it was a hobby, a paid hobby, and I've been lucky for having done that for a number of years. And towards the end of the pandemic, I realized that even though I love what I've been doing for pretty much all my life, I wanted to change a few things, and that was the start of this new journey, which is the start of Storo, which is my company, and we focus on moving stories for ethical and sustainable brands and organizations. So it's a new department. It's a new departure for me, a new adventure. So it's still early stage, but I absolutely love it.
Fantastic. I'm going to throw an extra question in here because I'm just curious while you're talking. What attracts you to video, to moving pictures, let's say, in particular? Why that particular? What drew you to that?
Why? Well, I think for me, the passion for film and moving pictures is because they move. I like the energy. I like the dynamism of moving pictures, but I like the fact also that they use audio. They use very different tools. So when I work on films, it's incredible the number of talents that are involved in the production of a film, and I find that always very fascinating. You need to understand so many different aspects of art, from art direction, from styling, from costumes, to set design, to props, hairstyling, and of course, I don't know all the elements of the puzzle, but I work with people who understand that. Sometimes I don't have the luxury of working with these people, so I work by myself, and that's also fun. But I like the flexibility of working with large crews and smaller crews as well. I like that flexibility.
Yeah, fantastic. We'll come back to how you work a little bit later in the conversation. But what are some of the projects you've been working on recently?
So I've been working on a few interesting projects recently, but I think I just wanted to also go back a little bit about the type of projects that I like doing, and the type of stories that I focus on are moving stories, and so I wanted just to share a little story about that, which I think it really helps to understand what I mean with moving stories, and type of stories that I like to tell. And so a few weeks ago, I booked a yoga class, and I went to the gym, and I was quite late, so I realized that I didn't have a yoga mat. So I panicked and I said to myself, well, I need to get this yoga mat because I need one. So I literally ran to Tesco because I thought there was one there. I couldn't find it. Ran to Aldi, and because I know they have a nail where they sell all this kind of stuff, I couldn't find it. So I was really kind of running up to
hot yoga.
Yeah, hot yoga, exactly. And then there was a shop, a Sports Direct shop just opposite, and I thought, well, this is my last chance. So I literally ran inside. I couldn't find the yoga mat, so I went to the till, and I chatted with the woman at the till, and she said, "Yeah, there's one here." And so I looked at it, and it was too thin. So I thought, well, I was looking for something a bit thicker. So okay, well then go downstairs. There might be some more there. So I went downstairs again, checking my time, really stressed, and I found one which was a bit better, but I realized actually I prefer the one upstairs. So I rush upstairs. Took the yoga mat, and unfortunately at the till there were already 3 people ahead of me. So in 2 minutes there were 3 people ahead of me. So I was waiting, checking my time, and I eventually I got to the till about to pay, and the woman said, "Oh, but there's an offer on a yoga mat. You can buy 2 for a very discounted rate." I said, "Well, no, I just want. I need to go to the farm. I just don't like." No, but listen, there was a lady here who also wanted to buy a yoga mat. So what? You can maybe split the cost together. And I thought, okay. And then all of a sudden, it's almost like if the world froze, and I just thought, oh, okay, I wouldn't mind paying a bit less. But it wasn't just that, I was just intrigued by this woman's, what she said, and the fact that she almost like told me, like, stop, just don't, stop and think. So without thinking too much, I literally run around the shop, and I saw the woman, and she had a yoga mat, the same yoga mat that I wanted to buy, under her arm. So I went to her and I said, well, I explained the situation. And she said, oh, yeah, okay. Well, why not? We can save some money. So we both went to the till, and with a big smile. And the woman at the till, she was also very happy that she made us happy. And we paid a fraction of the cost. And then I left. I left with my heart content. And the woman, just 1 minute later, she left as well. The one that we shared the cost of the yoga mat. And we kind of waved at each other. We smiled at each other, and we say, well, have a good day. So 3 people are happy in one day. And so to me, it was a random act of kindness. And whenever I see humanity revealed in such a beautiful way, really my perception of the world expands, and I believe in it kind of rekindle my belief in humanity, if you know what I mean. And to me, what that woman did is exactly what I'm trying to do with my company, which is to connect. So stories connect, and that woman, clearly, she wanted us to connect. She wasn't just after a quick sale. She was interested in us. She wanted us to connect with each other. And I thought, how beautiful is that? That woman inspired action. So we both tag along, and we took some actions, and we decided to join our forces and buy the yoga mats. And that woman also, she created change with her action. I'm talking about the woman at the till. To me, that's the power of storytelling. It's to inspire change, to create, to inspire action, and to connect people with each other and also with themselves. So this is what we do at Storo. So that's exactly the type of stories that we do and why we tell stories. And we focus in particular with moving stories, which are stories that, again, inspire action, but also move people emotionally to action and make people think, educate people, inspire people, and hopefully change the world one story at a time. So
I love it. I love it. I mean, in a sense, I also work in a really different arena of leadership and organization development. But without creativity, without stories, without that movement of energy, like you say, without the inspiration to change, because we found something that's shared. We found in the connection, we found something that's shared, that there's a meaning, there's a purpose, there's a simple action that we can take together that makes sense for everybody and is, of benefit for everybody. I love that is so central, to your work. But how do you, I'm asking a slightly different question from what we talked about earlier, but so how do you bring that idea then of, the fact that storytelling is all about inspiring change and bringing people together, connecting people, and then, showing ways in which you can take simple actions that many of us can do. How does that come into your, let's say, your more commercial work? So, what you're doing to keep the roof over your head, or whatever other reasons we work for. How do your projects come about? So you mentioned earlier about different size film crews. Sometimes it's just you doing everything by yourself. Maybe on a bigger project you've got a group of people. How does that kind of flavor or color, let's say, the way in which you work?
Well, that's kind of a $1 million question. How do the projects come? It's all about relationship, I think. Is
Right.
Some of this project happened because I met people years ago, and it's a type of work where, because there's tight deadlines, there's a lot of pressure. It's easy to work with people that you kind of know already, that you can trust. I mean, I'd be lucky because I gradually but steadily, I've been working more and more with the brands and organizations that allow me to tell their moving stories. And but at the same time, this is something that I've been doing pretty much all my life.
Okay.
So thinking back at some of my early projects that I've done, I've done a couple of documentaries about the relationship between life and death, having cancer, and dealing with something daunting as potentially terminal as a cancer, and living with that, but perhaps even living that in a more purposeful way. So that's a project that I've done years ago, but then I've done another project for the Home Office about female genital mutilation, which is a problem that is also happening around us, really. And that was exactly the type of project that we've done, and it's so good to do this kind of project and to know that they people are using them. So I was just literally checking last night, and is still being used and recommended as a series of films to watch and to use on the ground by the Metropolitan Police and the UK government. So it's good when you see that these projects, they're not just sitting on YouTube, they still creating impacts.
Amazing.
That's beautiful. And more recently, I've been working with some. Well, also hopefully, I believe that I'm attracting more and more because my purpose is stronger than before, and my direction is more clear and more focused on the type of work that I want to do and who I want to work with. So I'm attracting more those type of clients. So I've been lucky in many different ways to having worked recently with Icebreaker, which is a great sustainable company, and Smart Wool as well. And I love what they're doing with the merino wool. And so I've worked on a few projects with them. And recently, Smart Wool have launched a circular project called Second Cut, and allowing people to recycle their socks, and their socks then they become part of a circular economy project where they use the fiber to create some new socks. And But then also recently I've been working with a solar panel company, and it's been great. It's a much smaller company, but a very ambitious company. And what I like about them is that we've been working on a few films about the people that decided to invest on their products, on renewable energies, but not just on the product in itself, but on the story and the purpose behind. Why did they decide to make this investment? I was really interested in that, and it's been great, really, kind of meeting these people and being allowed to spend a few hours with them in the forest, with the dogs, in the homes, on the seaside. It's been wonderful, really. And it's incredible how these projects really, because it's not easy to be in front of a camera and share your story.
Absolutely.
But the fact that these people decided to be in front of the camera, it means that they understand why it's important to be in front of the camera, to share their story with the world. So anyway, these are just some of the projects that I've been doing recently. But yeah, very, very interesting. Each of them, they're incredible.
I can imagine. There's a lovely way in which you talk about it as well. It's really interesting, Ricardo, as I'm listening to you speak. And as I said earlier, we work in very different environments, but I can see lots of similarities, lots of parallels that I'm sure, exist also in many other contexts and spaces and whatever. So in the first series of this podcast, Paul and I introduced a number of regenerative practices that anybody can do, actually. Particularly if we do them with intention, and they become really powerful and they amplify the kind of effects that, you've been talking about connection and story and inspiring change and taking action, whatever, which, if we don't do that, then nothing ever changes, for sure. So, listening to you tell the way in which you just told your story, I can hear quite a few of those practices just naturally happening, because of who we bring of ourselves, let's say, into any situation, and then what happens in the spaces between us as a result, which is really the theme for this podcast. So, I heard you talking about obviously your nourishing relationships, some that you've had for a long time, some like, the one that we're starting to establish here together that's very new, which is lovely. And also, very much about, for example, I've seen the one for the renewable energy, and I love it. I've watched it, several times. And I don't have a lot of time, so that means it really kind of connected, something with me, with the guy standing at the window and telling a story and stuff. So, the fact about helping people to step into their power. So, because they're telling their story, they're telling their, what's true for them with an authentic voice, and really realizing or rediscovering their own power to, make an impact with that, is choosing to invest in a different form of energy for your own house or business or whatever it might be, or, inspiring other people to do that. And those things are really important. Those are the, the things that really sort of jumped out at me in the way that you just told that story.
Yeah, I think to me it's all about the people. I mean, I always loved people, so that's always been a major drive in pretty much all my life, my professional life, my personal life, and a big drive for me has always been connections, with people, with nature, with myself. One thing that for me has always been very important is also see myself in a non-duality way, as separate, but also as part of the environment and the society. So I think story can help bridge that gap, building like a sort of a common ground, and they can help to kind of weave together people with through stories, and also widening our perspectives, and really inspiring us to look outside our window. And the world is so big and beautiful. A lot of time we don't see that. We're quite limited, and the stories can really be a window for our world fly and expand, I think.
Yeah, wonderful. And that's actually what regeneration is all about, making those connections. So the different parts of ourselves, parts that we don't know, with our intuition, with each other, and then obviously, with the places in which we live. So, many of us have really busy lives, and we spend a lot of time in these virtual realms, which, are wonderful and provide us with all sorts of other opportunities and stuff that we never had before. But I think it's really important that we remember to get outside and, look at what's going around us and take care of it. Well, those, really crucial things. But that sounds like ground for food for another conversation entirely. But I wanted to come back to your projects for now. So what are some of the challenges, Ricardo, that you found in some of these beautiful things that you've been sharing with us?
I think some of the challenges are people. I just said that we love people.
Absolutely.
But I think, but also people are challenging because people are greedy. People like power. People like to be in control. People like to make decisions. People don't like to be challenged. And so that's always been very fascinating for me, but also very nerve-wracking and very tiring as well. So especially, I find it really difficult to work with people who they're not very flexible. They think they're right. I do think I do think that I like to listen. So for me, listening is very, very important. I think listening means really allowing the other to come there without any barriers and allowing the other person to really talk to you authentically and without any barriers, without any masks. I try to do that all the time. I'm not perfect, so I've got my flaws as well, but I do.
God, Ricardo.
Yeah, shape up. But I do like working with people who are they have a very creative and collaborative approach. That's why when I'm working on films and we have a crew, I like the dynamic because it's like a machine. Everybody knows what they're doing. Everybody's got place, and of course, it's important that you focus on your small purpose. You focus on your task. If you're doing the photography, you need to do photography. But all these different elements are interdependent with each other.
Absolutely.
So if you have a great script, but you have terrible actors or a terrible performance in front of the camera, or if the sound is horrible because you are next to an airport, it doesn't matter the quality of the speech or the script, the film will still sound horrible. So I like the fact that, in a way, just quoting you, I think this is a very regenerative approach, I think, to filmmaking. It's always been, I like to say that filmmaking for me has been a great life school for me because I've learned a lot about how to work with people, how to listen to people, how to also make sure that I was a good leader as well, because especially when I'm working as a director, I need to be in charge. It doesn't mean that I need to boss people around, but I need to listen. A good leader has to listen, but also needs to have the courage and the confidence to make decisions. Also, when sometimes it's difficult to tell people to go to a different direction when everybody's pushing to go to a completely different direction. So,
it's all about teamwork, isn't it? It's all about collective leadership at the end of the day. People need to, as you say, it's like a kind of, I can imagine, I've never actually been on a film set, but I've known various directors and, people involved, and they've all said similar things about, it's really scheduled. Of course it is. You've got, budgets and all sorts of things to take care of, and you've only got that amount of hours of daylight or whatever it might be that, is constraining you. So, I can hear some other of the regenerative practices that we've mentioned before in the last series of the Pocket Dojo, about zooming in and out. So in other words, something is happening outside ourselves. We can sort of look at it and say, okay, well, those people are not doing this properly, or, whatever it might be, somebody's incompetent, all the kind of human judgments that, we inevitably make. But as leaders, we are really wise, and much more effective if we can look inside and say, okay, so how am I contributing to that situation, and what am I doing to help that situation become easier, rather than just directing people what to do. I mean, that's important, obviously, in an emergency, but we don't want to be operating that, on a regular basis, which happens all too often, sadly. So, excuse me, I'm going to take a little sip of water as well, actually. It's when you talk for half an hour, it goes. I'm curious then, Roberta, what about the future? What are, kind of projects that you'd like to be doing in the future? We've heard a little bit about, where you find yourself now, and
maybe start again.
I've got her.
You call me Roberto. So
did I call you Roberto? Oh no.
Maybe start again from the sip of water. So it's
okay. I'd take the sip of water. I'll just cut that bit out. My apologies. I'm getting really distracted. So, Ricardo, I would love to hear a little bit more about the future. We've heard, something in the short time we have available here today. We've heard a bit about, where you find yourself now and something of your journey to get here. What about the future? What kind of projects would you like to be doing or thinking about in the future?
If you allow me, I will share a very quick story, and then because it's nice to start with a story and finish with a story. So there's a longer version, but I'll only tell the short version of that. And again, all these encounters happen when I go to the gym or when I come back from the gym. So meaning that
daily life, right?
Daily life, but also the opportunities of storytelling that are really at our doorstep. I think that's really important. I think. So I've been walking past a beautiful house on the way to the gym for the past few months. Really, a house with a normal Victorian house, but with a lot of flower pots and plants and flowers and insects, etc. Yeah, exactly. And I always loved it because I thought, well, this is one of the best houses in the area, and I was wondering who was living there, and also had a beautiful bay leaf tree, which I absolutely loved it. And so the other day when I was walking back, I noticed there was a person outside just watering the plants. So I decided to stop. And I stopped and I said, well, are you the owner of the house? I just wanted to say that I absolutely love your plants and your flowers. And it literally, it's almost like he was waiting for me. He turned towards me and he said, I believe in humanity. I believe in humanity. Oh, okay. I wasn't expecting that. And then we started to have a wonderful conversation about the fact that his garden is really for people to admire, to stop, to observe, and to really connect with beauty, really. And so he then revealed to me that he had a CCTV camera hidden at the top of his roof, and through that he would just enjoy observing the reaction of people stopping by, the children, the elderly people, which I know is a bit strange, but I love the fact that he was really doing that for the people. And every 2 seconds he was waving at someone and saying hi to someone else. So he was a true leader and a person who clearly he was very popular in the neighborhood. And I revealed to him that the other day I was thinking about his bay leaf tree because, as you know, Asha, you need a bay leaf to create the best ragu. And
yes, indeed,
because I finished my bay leaf, so I thought, maybe I can ask, I can knock at the door and get some leaves. No, absolutely, you should have done that. So he gave me a plant, a mini plant of bay leaf, which was great. He said, well, if you need more, there's a whole tree at the back of the garden. Then I said to him, well, this is great, really. And then there was a honeybee coming and visiting some of his flowers. And I said to him, well, your garden attracts insects and bees, but also you attract beautiful, people, and it's beautiful what you're doing for the community. So kind of left each other like that, with shaking hands and hugging each other. And so to me, it was a beautiful day. It really kind of filled my heart with joy. And but I do believe these little stories, these people deserve to be exposed. They deserve to become a bigger stories. I mean, they are small stories, but they're big stories. So my focus with Storo is focusing on those people, working with these people, and giving exposure to these people, and really telling those stories. And I think brands and organizations really, the more they tell these kind of stories, which are not only about selling a product, but they are also about creating a culture. They are about creating a movement. All the world will actually become a better world, I think. So it's about creating those connections between people, and stories have got this incredible power to really connect people. And so in terms of the future, my dream is to keep doing what I'm doing with big organizations, bigger brands, and be in a position where not only I can produce this kind of films, but I can also work with filmmakers and storytellers and creators from all over the world, and create, I don't like the word army, but I like the idea that we're almost creating an army of regenerative visual storytellers. I don't know how you want to feel that. People who are really embracing creativity and storytelling as a force for good. So that's a dream.
I love it. It's fantastic. I also believe in. I have many experiences of synchronicity, I think, which is what you're describing there. Meeting the guy with his garden and connecting in that way. That I think more and more people are living just like you say in their daily lives, on their path back from work, or their reach to the supermarket or wherever it might be. That all sorts of opportunities occur that we generally don't take that much notice of, particularly we're kind of swiping on our phones. So Riccardo, we're coming to the end of the show. I feel like we've just literally kind of scratched the surface, little kind of the taste, maybe had a little taste is probably a better metaphor, of so many possibilities. I'm really excited to see, what develops for everyone going forwards. Where can people find out more about your work? Which particular links would you like to share or put below?
Yeah, absolutely. So my work is on social medias. So I'm quite active on LinkedIn. I think it's a great platform for me to really share what I feel is important. And so people can find me as Riccardo Sai with double C. And and they can find me there. I quite like Instagram as well. So I've got like a personal and a company Instagram handle. So the.storo. And then I've got a website as well. So it's www.storo.co.uk. So people can find more about my work there and how I can help them.
Fantastic. So we'll put those into the comments, the show notes, etc. So before you go, I would love to just invite you, if you're up for playing a little game, for a very short series of quick fire questions that you haven't seen, you don't know what they are. Would you play?
Yeah, I like play.
Yeah, great, fantastic. So they're really simple. There are no right or wrong answers. It's just whatever comes to mind for you. And we get asked the same question to everybody. You're just curious what people will come up with. So question number 1, one consistent, non-negotiable, so in other words, you need to do it all the time or regularly, regenerative practice that's really important for you.
Listen. Listen.
Fantastic. One thing you change about yourself in order to have more impact.
See myself in a wider context, in a non-duality way, as I do think it's important to start from ourselves, our happiness, our well-being, but also it's almost like having two sets of glasses and look at yourself, making sure that your allotment is growing well, but also thinking about that whatever you're doing, whatever action you take, they're part of or something bigger. So changing perspective all the time. Myself, the planet, society, myself all the time.
Wonderful. That's a whole other conversation also there. Question number 3. Someone who's really inspired you.
Someone who really inspired me is, again, this is a long conversation, but my true mentor is still my grandfather. He passed away a few years ago, but he's still a great mentor for me. An incredible human being, a great leader, an amazing entrepreneur, very successful, and working with a very sustainable and regenerative approach, because he used to work with wood. A person who managed to create an incredible culture in his company. And decades after he passed away, people still remember him, and they really remember what a good person he was. A very generous and kind person, also very determined and very business savvy, but also very, very kind, very generous, very who believed in young people as well. I think that's something that I always loved about him, the fact that he had an incredible faith in youth.
Fantastic. You just answered question number 4, which was why did he inspire you? And wonderful. I'd love to hear more about him another day. And then last but certainly not least, what's your biggest aspiration, Ricardo, for the world?
That's the most difficult one. I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
My aspiration for the world. So my inspiration that we slowly but steady, I know we don't have a lot of time to change the narrative, but at the same time, it's not easy, because I think we've been living for millennia and centuries and years with a certain mentality, which is really obsessed by our greed, our hunger, our competitiveness, which don't take me wrong, I don't feel they are negative part of our of what it means to be human, but at the same time, if we only focus on those traits of being human, then the risk is that we dehumanize ourselves and we become close to animals. So I think it's about embracing some of the characteristics of being human, even the more negative ones, but also focusing on the good, positive side of them and transforming some of the negative into positive. So I think there's a lot of work to be done. I think is that we need to see ourselves in a bigger way, in a more expanded way, and I think is I'm really hopeful, but at the same time, I do know that there's a lot of work to do in terms of changing this global narrative, because it is part of our DNA, and the reason why we've been behaving in such a way is part of us, is part of our DNA as human. But I think we can change that as well.
Which is a beautiful place to bring our conversation to an end for today. Ricardo, thank you so much for being such a generous guest here on the Pocket Dojo. Will you come back and join us for another conversation?
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you, Asha. I really enjoyed it.
Likewise. Thank you.